So a very good morning to all of you. Hi, I'm Dr. Tanya Paul Das, Manager Science and Technology at IASST IASST, which is nestled in the Institute of Advanced Study in Science and Technology, Guwahati. We are actively working to promote bio-entrepreneurship, and we are really glad that you all have showed interest in these very exciting topics of today's webinar on innovation management and tech commercialization and importance of and benefits of GI. So being member of the clan of scientists, biotechnologists, and allied field researchers, we always think to be benefited by our own technologies. And at the same time, we want others to get benefited. So therefore, innovation management and tech commercialization are the two words that will ultimately pave the way for enjoying the fruit of innovation. And today, Technology Transfer Office team of the KIIT Technology Business Incubator Bhubaneswar has extended their hand to leverage the intellectual resource of ISST so that the innovations can reach the platform of commercialization. They have introduced us to two very eminent speakers with whom we will meet virtually today, and we will be able to hear from them all the aspects of innovation and technology commercialization, as well as geographical indication. So our first speaker is Mr. Nitesh Kaushik. Currently, he is the National Expert Technology Transfer at the United Nations Industrial Development Organization for a project on the facility for low carbon technology deployment in India. And also, he is the co-founder of Vimrayo Consulting, and as a UNGP consultant placed at the Public Policy and Government Good Governance, he was working closely with the relevant government departments, UN agencies, and academic institutions to provide the requisite inputs to the state government's initiative in rolling out the Sustainable Development Goals and accelerating the economic growth. He did his Masters of Science in Tech Science and Engineering from Tampere University of Technology, Finland, and he is also the visiting faculty at the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies and co-chairman of the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry Uttarakhand. And so this is a very brief introduction of Mr. Nitesh Kaushik, and we welcome you, sir. But yes, I think we can start.
Yeah, thank you for your kind introduction. So currently, as you all have heard, I work with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization on a project that is focusing on clean technology. So it's a very special area. So we'll have references from clean tech during my talk. So what I'm going to do today is a very introductory and very basic concept setting kind of a thing. So we'll quickly run through the basic concepts of innovation, technology, commercialization, technology development, etc. And then subsequently, we can have a deeper discussion during the Q&A session, or if anybody thinks it's important and you want to stop me while during the presentation, that is also fine with me. So are my slides visible?
Yes.
Okay. So today we'll quickly try to cover these topics. We set up some sort of concepts on creativity, invention, and innovation. Very important, because when you use these three words, they mean different things. When you go to a senior, or when you're writing in your project proposals, or you're meeting an investor, and if you're using these words as synonyms, if creativity, invention, and innovation mean the same thing, I think it's time to look at the definitions and probably at the concepts. Then why should you commercialize? Because usually when we talk to the research community, this is the first question a lot of them ask, that my task is to do research. Why should I bother about commercializing my work? Then we'll quickly look at the process of technology development. How does it go? What are the stages involved? Then we'll look at the key enabling process of technology development,
Yeah,
that
Dr.
is
Tanya.
technology transfer.
Yeah, the key purposely to mention.
And then we look at how technology commercialization is done. Some good practices which I have seen and I've been part of initiating those practices from other institutions. I would share a little bit. And then if we have time, I'll probably mention about my current project as well. So my talk is timed at around 45 minutes, 50 minutes. So if I'm exceeding, please feel free to tell me about it. Thank you. So when you look at this picture, what do you see? This is a classic case of creativity, invention, and innovation. So now here is one person who's claiming that they have invented something. So what is invention? So
Hello.
invention, um, I think somebody will have to mute their mic. So can I continue?
I request everybody to mute the microphones. Thank you for your understanding. Sorry, Mr. Kaushik.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So here, as you can see, there's this one person who's declaring it to everybody, hey, I have a new invention. I look what I've invented. So invention is something which is new, which is unique, and which is non-natural. It does not exist already in nature. So initially, if you would go back about 40, 50 years, that would probably mean new, unique, and man-made. But now the AI, artificial intelligence, has progressed so much that it has started inventing its own things. So that's why we have moved from man-made to non-natural. So it doesn't exist in nature by itself. It requires an external intervention. So inventions are new, unique, and non-natural. And creativity is when you can think of the far and wide scope of the invention or whatever is the medium of expression. Like here, you can see this person has invented a round shape, and then everybody is using their creativity to think of different use cases for that invention. So, how far, how wide can it go? The larger your reach, more creative you are. And then finally comes what is innovation. So innovation is when somebody is willing to pay you for your invention or creativity. So whenever you use the word innovation, it has to qualify three criteria, three basic criteria. If it qualifies, then only it can be classified as innovation. One is it should be possible with today's technology. It should not be like in future we will create a technology and then this will work. Second is it should be desirable by the end user. So that implies that you have engaged the end user at the very early stage of whatever you are developing. And third is it should be viable in the market. There should be people who are willing to pay for it. That again implies that you have studied the market. So that is why I mentioned at the beginning of my talk also. So whenever you use the word innovation, as an investor, to me, it means something. And it means all these three things. If the answer to any of these questions is no, it is better to use the word creativity or creative ideas, which are in the process of being validated. And once they get validated, they get qualified as innovation. And then lastly, then we come to what about entrepreneurship? So innovation is when people are willing to pay you for what you're trying to do. Entrepreneurship is when you're actually able to get the money in your bank account from these people. So that is the whole idea. So you create all the systems, processes, experience, the product, the service model, whatever. The idea is initially there is a promise. When you are being innovative, there's a promise of getting paid. Entrepreneurship is when you are actually getting paid. Because now you're running a business, you're running a venture, and you need revenues. Everything else becomes secondary there. So I hope this was clear and explanatory enough. So if anybody would like to discuss, feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to the next slide. Now, how does the process of innovation start? So the process of innovation starts with insights. Now, insights can come from multiple sources. You can be a domain expert who's been working in a particular field for X number of years, and then you get an insight. Or you could simply be a thinker who's very good at observations and has observed a certain gap and now has insight. But the insight is not enough. Once you have an insight of a gap or a need or a requirement, then you need to do problem discovery. Now the problem discovery itself is it's a very focused, specialized branch of study But here, what we mean by problem discovery is that you would try to understand the underlying causes of the problem. Root cause, if you can identify, very nice. If not, at least the underlying causes. You should have a very good understanding of the problem itself. So usually when I speak to startup founders, my advice to them is fall in love with the problem, not with the solution. Because the solution will keep on changing. Problems are generally more, they are more persistent. So try and understand the problem. So when you do that, don't try to do this in a silo. You cannot understand a problem just by sitting on your desk and going through papers and reports and articles over the internet. You have to actually go out and speak to people. These people could be the end user that you're targeting. These people could be your peers. These people could be people who are totally unrelated to the problem right now, but in future could become part of the solution or the problem. So the idea is to go out and interact. And that is the step when you should decide to get up out of your desk and move and meet people. Once you have a very good understand of the problem, so usually when I so there's a lot of experience and a lot of thumb rules kind of a things that come into the play here. So usually what is the indicator of a good problem statement or a good problem discovery exercise? That is that you should be able to describe your problem statement in one sentence. If it is turning into a paragraph, probably you need to look one more level deeper, or probably you need to um, work on it more. The problem statement could be one sentence. The explanation or elaboration could run into as many pages as you want. But if you have to communicate the problem statement itself, it's usually a very good idea if you can fit it in one sentence. Once you have this sorted out, then we move on to ideation. Ideation is when you're trying to when you're trying to design solutions around the problem statement that you worked on. Now, this ideation stage is very, very important. It's like hatching. More eggs, more likelihood of success. More ideas, more solutions, more likelihood of success. So again, this is again something you cannot or you should not try to do on your own. Involve more people. It's a very transdisciplinary kind of a thing. So because what happens is, especially for people who work in domains, you become domain expert, and the approach kind of starts becoming a very one-track pursuit of excellence of your own domain, while the solution may lie in something which is adjacent to your domain. So that kind of understanding is very, very required, and it's always a good idea to work in teams, or a very good idea to interact with people from different backgrounds. Very often we have seen we try to solve things with technology while the answer is in social sciences or behavioral. On the other hand, we try to do things in society while the answer lies with the technology aspects of it. So those kind of discussions, formal or informal, you can make the choice, are very, very important. Once we do that, we have solutions. Then we come to implementation and the iteration part of it. You have to keep on iterating, test your hypothesis, test your solutions against the problem statement that you have decided on, and also against the end user who's going to use it. We have examples of very elegant solutions, technology solutions, but hardly any users. I don't know if you guys have experienced this. If you would go to, usually when you go to a DM or DC's office, municipal office, there's a very beautiful computer system, IT system there, where the intention is to you can go and look for all the rural development schemes or municipality schemes, all the benefits that you can get out of it. But nobody is using those systems. They're just gathering dust over there. Why? Because the end user is not trained to use those systems. So that is the idea. Once you have iterated and reached a solution which you think is a good fit, you move on to productization and product development. You start standardizing it, you start building the overall user experience around it, and then you start talking about end user inputs, feedback from end user, see if they are able to use it or not. So because the idea is to commercialize eventually, right? And commercialization will only happen when the end user accepts whatever you are offering. So we have technology. Don't simply try to put your technology in a packet and try to sell it. Look at it from a user's perspective and try to provide the overall solution or the experience. And that is why a lot of collaboration is required, a lot of interaction with peers, a lot of other people you need to speak to. And that is exactly why IP management and technology transfer, why I call them enablers of this process. Because if you don't have them, this process is very, very difficult for it to move forward. When you do this step by step approach, there are generally four valleys of death. So valley of death is where your system or your process, your project can come to an end. It can occur at the ideation stage because you simply do not have enough ideas. It can die out at the implementation or the iteration stage because the the system that you're designing is not meeting the requirement. Productization and product development, of course, it can become very, very expensive. A very good example would be glucometers. The technology itself was already, the proof of principle was already there in 1970s. And it's only now that we are seeing some successful products around glucometers. Even today, it is very difficult. If you do not take one or two brands and you end up buying a glucometer of another brand, it's very difficult to find the accessories in the market. So all of these are because of the values of death. And finally, the commercialization itself. The market can simply reject what you've prepared or what you've developed. So this is how the overall process of innovation goes forward. And this is also how things move from lab to the market. Be very careful about these four values of death. Do not work in a silo. Work in a team. Have regular interaction. Go out in the field and meet people. Very, very important. Now we come to why. Why should we do it? A lot of researchers ask, it's not my job. It is everybody's job. If you're doing it, there are some reasons I've mentioned here. You may have your own reason, your own motivation. Most common ones are obviously if you like money and want to be wealthy. It applies to individuals and organizations both. Then commercialization, it leads to further developments in science and technology. Example would be private space exploration. India today has more than 50 private companies working in space science. Few years ago, this was unthinkable, and only ISRO had the responsibility of taking things forward. Now we have 50 more people, 50 more organizations, 50 more teams working on something which is a common goal of everybody. The likelihood of success goes very high. It creates jobs and opportunities for masses. You don't know the thing that you're working on, it can create opportunities for masses. Think of IT revolution. Before IT revolution, before 90s, job situation in India, I think everybody knows about it. The moment we hit IT, we decided to go for it. It changed everything. It adds to your personal motivation and growth. There's a lot of satisfaction, in fact. And then imagine just imagine the research that you've done is saving lives or is helping people to make their livelihoods. If you try to commercialize your innovation or technology, it also helps to push the boundaries of what is possible. Because public funded research has its own it has its own advantages and benefits, but private funded research also has its own benefits. Imagine Abacus to ENIAC to PC to supercomputers to quantum computing. All of this, I would not say that it won't be possible, but the timelines would stretch very long if private money was not involved in any of these developments. Then obviously there is prestige, there is social standing, there's legacy, because whatever you have worked on, the innovation, the research that you've contributed, and especially if it gets commercialized, your ideas, they're most likely going to surpass your own lifetime. Just think of Ford Motor Company. They were the first ones to introduce assembly line. Mr. Ford has passed away, his generations have passed away, but the idea is still there, and everybody credits them with the idea. So there can be many more motivations. There can be a lot of individual motivations. For somebody like me, it's simply fun. I like to see people using what I've worked on. So you can have your own motivation. You don't have to list it here, but there is a very, very solid, very specific reason for why you should try and commercialize your technology or your innovation. Now, how does this go? Now, there are these steps. TRL levels, we call them technology readiness levels. They go from 1 to 9. What was the need for these TRLs? They were developed by NASA in 1960s. In India, we have BIRAC, which has its own similar model. Now, what is the need? Like I mentioned in my previous slide, it's a very multidisciplinary and a transdisciplinary kind of a skill set that is required. Then, at every stage of development, the requirements and the needs are also different. So, what was happening globally? Something which I would say mature would go to another country and they would say, oh, it's not meeting our requirements, it's not mature yet. You still need to work on it. And I don't understand, what do I need to do? So there was no common benchmark, no common language for people to talk about. Similarly, when you go to an investor, these things becomes even more important. I'll give you an example. We run an acceleration program in a project. And when people apply to our acceleration program, we have a question there. And the question is, at what TRL is your innovation? Or what is the maturity level of your innovation? Everybody, almost everybody, they write TRL 9 or commercialized. And then we have to call them and ask, ki aap applicant chodo, would you like to become a mentor in our program? Because when you already hit there, then there is no point in coming to our accelerator program. You can come as a mentor. So, but then when we discuss, when we talk about things, then they realize, okay, they are somewhere around 3 and 4. So what are these TRLs? I'll quickly take you through. So TRL 1 is ideation. That is when you have the idea set in. You've worked on the problem statement. You have some ideas, some filtered ideas, not just the entire range of solutions, some filtered ideas. TRL 2 is when you have proof of principle. Whatever you're planning, you have established that it works. There is principle there is science, there is technology which is available, which can solve this. You can think of it as something like you're mixing something in beakers and jars and probably demonstrating. Next is proof of concept. Proof of concept is kind of like working models which we used to make when we were kids, science exhibitions ke liye. So proof of concept is when you take your proof of principle a step forward and try to give it a shape. TRL 4 is when your proof of concept is established. It works in every situation. You can demonstrate it in your lab, you can demonstrate it in somebody else's lab as well. So now it is established. Whatever you wanted to do, the way you wanted to solve it, it is solving at lab scale. Next, we go to technology development. So now technology development or early stage validation, very, very important. So early stage validation is where your core technology is tested in laboratory conditions. So it's not just concept now, you've given it shape, there is design involved, there is engineering involved, but you're still testing at the lab scale. Then you go to TRL 6, that is again early stage validation, but this time you have taken your prototype outside the laboratory and closer to real life conditions. Extremely important. I'm sure all of you have experienced this at some point in your research. Everything works in your laboratory. You want to take it to somewhere else. It simply doesn't work. It has happened to me. Very commonly worked organisms like E. coli, Bacillus, Acinetobacter and all, even these organisms, they behave strangely. You take them from one environment to another and you have to spend some time trying to standardize it again. So complicated solutions, one can imagine the complexity involved. So now you have your entire thing and you're taking it out of the laboratory and testing it closer to real life conditions. TRL 7, that is called late stage validation. Now you're not just testing your core technology, you are also testing the support systems, control panels, if there is automation involved, if you're adding further engineering inputs, like probably putting it inside a jacket, or giving it a structure, turning it into a box, something which can be carried out in the field. For example, if you're developing a, let's say, a soil testing kit, so then you're putting it in a box, you're taking batteries, you're all the wherewithal that is required for your technology to work, you're testing everything with that in real life conditions, taking it out to the field, taking it to the industry, and testing it in reality. TRL 8 is pre-commercialization. Pre-commercialization is when you are looking at all the compliances that are required. You're trying to meet all the standards that are required. You're looking at product development now, and you're taking inputs from the end user and incorporating it in the final shape of what you're doing. See, taking inputs from the end user, in fact, starts right from the ideation stage. That is where you will filter the ideas. But those inputs this time will be very technical. But as you move towards the TRL 8, these inputs are more about the use cases, how the end user will interact with your technology, if they find it very complicated, if it is simple for them, if they will break it for that matter. All these kind of things will come into the picture, and you will be at TRL 8, that is pre-commercialization. And finally, you reach TRL 9, and that is when you commercialize your product. It goes in the market and it is sold on the shelves or however. And then people are studying what are the post-market impact assessment, as a business model, as a case study. People are studying what you've done. So as you move higher on the TRLs, you need more time and more investment. Until TRL 4, there is a lot of support that is available from Government of India, various programs. BIRAC is already there. BIRAC also has support for later stages, but most of the programs currently, they have state support for until TRL 4. TRL 4 to 7 is kind of a gray area currently in the Indian ecosystem. It's difficult to find support from 4 to 7. That is where my project has decided to position itself. We work in this space from 4 to 7. And once you cross 7, or when you have early results which are promising and progressive at 7, then you can approach sorry, institutionalized private investment, and it is available. So understanding this overall process is extremely important, because all your communication is going to depend on these TRLs. At what stage are you? What stage are you going? And why do you need the money for? So we see a lot of, since I've been involved in the startup ecosystem, worked within the angel investment and startup investment community as well. So what happens is, especially at an early stage, when you go and speak to an investor and you tell them, I have this technology, you tell about your credentials as a scientist, as a researcher, as a student from reputed, prestigious organizations, they tend to assume that what you're saying is fine, what you're saying is true. You get the money, and then reality hits, and that is when you lose the trust. It's not performing as it was expected to be, and the investor will be, but you said it will. So to avoid all that, it is always best to stick to these TRLs. In our experience, we have also seen cases where extremely good teams, extremely good technology, somewhere at TRL 3 and 4, and then they try to jump directly to 8 or 9 per se, but it has not worked out. To put it very bluntly, it has not worked out. And if you look at most of the technology ventures, if you try to analyze their failures, you would be able to trace their failures somewhere down the line to skipping one of the TR levels. So they're very important. It's always best to follow the approach. So when I say that you have to go from one step to the other, there are a lot of peers involved. There'll be a lot of times when the work will be done between two organizations. Or in reality, how it happens is, for example, you bring it to TRL 4 or 5, then you find an entrepreneur, and the entrepreneur will take it forward. So XYZ scenarios happen. So technology transfer becomes the enabler of this movement. So there is two kinds, horizontal and vertical. So horizontal transfer is from one team to another. For example, in your institute, you've developed a technology, or in your department or in your laboratory, you have developed a technology. And then this technology has to be taught to other departments, other teams, other institutions. That is horizontal. A lot of things which come into the picture which should be taken care of when you're doing horizontal transfer. And vertical transfer is when you're taking from one stage to the another organization is taking it over and they want to further build on top of what you have done. So whenever you do this, it's always best to write down everything. And when I say write down everything, it has to turn into a proper document which is of legal nature. And such a document is called a tech transfer agreement. Now, here I have listed key components of a tech transfer agreement. First is scope. Scope talks about the level of detail, the technical engineering, everything that is involved, even the tacit knowledge, which cannot be, let's say, protected by some form of IP, but is involved, training, etc. So, scope, you define the entire scope of engagement. Then you talk about territory and exclusivity. So if you want to limit it to geography, if you want to limit it to market size, if you want to limit it to, let's say, I will give this technology to only one person, or you want to give this technology to 10 people, all of this comes within territory and exclusivity part of things. Intellectual property, extremely important. So IP is first you talk about the current status. You have, let's say, X number of patents, X number of patents filed, X number of patents pending. Then your agreements on future developments. So you have something in your name, you're passing it to somebody else. They develop something on top of that. How do you decide who gets the credit and what happens? And even joint development. Let's say you have 50 lakhs in a project, you have estimated you need about 2 crores. You go to another organization, they have the remaining money. Then how do you share the IP, joint development, etc. Confidentiality, extremely important, because nobody wants that you pass it on to something today and tomorrow you see it all over YouTube or all over Google. You can understand what I mean. Fees and payments, royalties, one-time fee, any other service fee, how do you want to get it paid, etc., etc., consulting fee, whatever the monetary consideration is, it has to be considered right at the beginning. Warranty and indemnity, very, very important. You have to kind of assure the other party that whatever you're supplying them, it will go and work. I have seen so many deals stuck at CSIR and other laboratories because of this. Then indemnity, of course, you were working on something for the good of the society, you have passed it on to another, let's say, organization, and they're turning it into a bioweapon. Agencies come to know about it, they trace it back to you, and you are looking for trouble. So these kind of things, everything has to be managed. You are working on something nice, you pass it on to another organization, they have a leakage from their lab. So you need protection because your role has been limited. And now the other party has taken the lead or other party is involved. So obviously you need to protect your interests, right? Time period, for how long is the agreement valid? Exit and termination. You get into a conflict, there is change in control, you are moving on, a new person is coming in, or laboratory is being moved or shut down, or it's simply decided that okay, the agreement is passing the limits of relevance. So then two parties or three parties or however would like to move out of the agreement. So all of this needs to be taken care of. That is why I say this, that it is best if you leave all this to professionals. There are people who are trained in this. There are people who have a lot of experience in dealing with this. They will need your support. But then, first immediate support that you can give them is give them the space to work on this, give them the freedom and the liberty to work on this. How does this work? The process of tech transfer, very simplified steps. In reality, there can be a lot of loops around each of the step. For the interest of this presentation, I'm going to keep it like this. First is disclosure. So disclosure is when you tell the world that I have something. Now, when you say disclosure, it is very, very important to document everything that will support your claim. Because generally, I'm sure you have also realized in your research careers, you're not the only one working on the subject. There is always a competing laboratory, there's always a competing team who is also working on whatever you do. So you need to document everything so that tomorrow, if it goes to the court to decide who has the rights over it, you have a certain edge in terms of having the proof. So you document everything, and with the documentation, you disclose. Now, disclose is not announcing it to the world in a way कि you go to the Facebooks and LinkedIn's and Twitters and you start posting it everywhere. Hey, I have something, I have something. No, disclosure is within your organization, the team that has been assigned to look at tech transfer or commercialization, you go and speak to them. In most cases, they will have a form. They will ask you to fill in that form. Next comes evaluation. So evaluation is very, very important because the team will decide if whatever you have disclosed, is it worth pursuing or not. Now you may feel offended, like how can somebody else decide if it's worth pursuing or not? See, you need to understand here at this point that whatever tech transfer or commercialization activities you want to pursue, there's a huge amount of cost involved. And that cost money is anyway a limited resource. You need to be very careful about how you allocate that resource. Second is, if you go on getting patents indiscriminately, very quickly you will run into a solution where these patents who are lying on your shelves and in your files, they become a liability to you because you need to further manage your IP. You need to renew them or you need to keep a track, XYZ. There are a lot of hassles involved if you have patents and then these patents are not being productive for you. That is why this evaluation is very, very important. Even at this stage, I would say do not communicate with outsiders. I've been in sessions where people come and start presenting. A lot of times I've had to stop the researcher in the middle of a presentation, ask them, have you applied for a patent? Because I think I see an opportunity here. The researcher says no. And then I request them to stop the presentation then and there. Because I don't want to be a party of a scenario where the patent application gets rejected simply because it was a public presentation and I was sitting in the panel. Do not communicate until you get a green from your IP officer or your IP office. Extremely important. There have been cases where people have lost rights over their IPs. After the evaluation is successful, goes your patent application. Again, it is an expert's job. Let them do it. Have respect for their expertise. Let them do it. They know what they're doing. Ask questions. You can ask as many questions as you want, but don't try to direct the process. You tell them what you want, your expectations, but don't start giving them instructions XYZ like you do it in your laboratories or you do it with your staff. They are experts at this. Let them do this. Once the application is filed, then next is the market assessment and marketing, because now you want to attract external money, you want to attract external partners, external entrepreneurs. So you need to market. You need to basically market your invention, market your innovation, your technologies, so that you find good partners. Next would be, once you have found there is some sort of alignment, and then you go for the licensing step. When we say licensing, I usually tell people of think long term. Don't just think of what is the one time bonus that I can get, or what is the percentage of royalty that I can get. Look at the overall package. What is it that they can offer? Sometimes they're not able to offer enough money, let's say, slightly lower than the competition, but they offer a lot of other perks. So think long term when you think of licensing or choosing your licensing partner. And finally is commercialization. A lot of people think once you have licensed it, the job is over. It doesn't. As a technology transfer partner, as the parent of the technology, your role is extremely important during the commercialization phase as well, because that is the phase where you'll have a lot of user input coming in, and the technology and everything will require modifications. You want to stay on top of things. It's important for you as well, because I'll give you a specific example. In our innovation challenge, in fact, we have a company which specializes in making chargers for electric vehicles, running on lead acid batteries. Specific technology, very beautiful technology. Now, one of the larger players of lead acid batteries has decided to work with them. So now they're working, and all of a sudden, halfway through the development process, this larger manufacturer has demanded that you supply X number of chargers to us, give us all freedom to open the charger and study all the components and everything, algorithms, everything that goes within it, and also supply all the data that goes within it. Now, if this person or if this team, this young innovation team, if they are not part of this commercialization process, they are in no position to stop such a thing. So stick with them. Don't think of it as a one-off transaction that ye license diya, ye paisa aa gaya, and move on. No. Think of it as a long-term association and stick with them throughout the process. It's equally good for both the parties. Now, a lot of people say, okay, fine, we want to commercialize, but what are the modalities? How to do it? First is startup creation. You can create startups. Have a technology, work with a young team, work with an entrepreneurial team, and create a startup. You can think of faculty student, faculty, student partnerships, whatever is allowed by your institutional policies, however you want to work with it. Second could be downstream commercialization. You can have a company which is based on your in-house R&D. Private university, Shulini, they have established a pharma company based on life science research in their laboratory. China, most of the universities fund their good universities fund their R&D budgets through these kind of companies. You can look at licensing as a business model. Germany and US very popular for this. You can look at consultancy and short projects. So these are something which are like faculty can lead it, senior researchers can lead it, juniors can become a part of it. And off the shelf solutions, this is something which is already available with you. You have the expertise, very little research component, directly can go to the industry. It's like getting that one foot into the door. If you have a track record of good consultancy, successful short projects, you're more likely to get a larger thing. Again, contract research. I'm sure everybody, most of you understand what contract research is. Training and capacity building programs, very, very important, because they help you form that reputation within the industry. Because the industry will come in, or the private money will come in only when they recognize you as an expert, right? So training and capacity building programs, they help you form that prestige, that reputation, that comfort level with the private sector. And then this is also a way for you to transfer and commercialize your tacit knowledge, something which you have but cannot be patented. A lot of people underestimate the value of tacit knowledge, by the way. So it will be good to think about all this in your internal departmental meetings or whenever you are discussing about commercialization. And then this is where the world is moving right now. That is co-creation and co-commercialization. Part of the money comes from you, part of the money comes from the private partner who has a persistent problem. Both of you work together to create something jointly and then commercialize it. It's very successful, and you can look at American universities doing this, especially universities working in the field of medicine, vaccinations, and IT. So all of these modalities, there are more you can explore, but this is something food for thought. You can think of these ways, and if it is of interest to you, you can do further research and see more ways how you can do it. Some good practices that we have seen, I have seen around the ecosystem. So one is to promote on-campus culture. You can introduce entrepreneurship at the beginning of the degree or the training cycle. You can have entrepreneurship cells or incubators. Even research institutions, I think it will benefit them a lot to have an e-cell at least, if not an entire incubator. Then create policies. In India, currently, we don't have a national law or national policy about technology commercialization. So that basically gives your institution an opportunity to demonstrate agility. And you can see it. I'm sure all of you are aware of institutes like NCL or formerly UDCD, University Department of Chemical Technology. I think it's called Institute of Chemical Technology now. So now these institutions, they've taken advantage of this agility and created policies which are helping them commercialize. At the same time, I'm sure you are aware of other institutes also where nothing is happening. So the idea is to take that initiative and mold your system within your organization to support the entire thing. It's not a one person's job. Next is you should encourage your faculty and students to visit the industries, to interact with them, to promote consultancy activities. There are some universities in the private sector, they give awards. So if they have a faculty who gets a patent, they organize a public ceremony to sort of recognize them. If the patent gets commercialized, they put out newspaper clippings, newspaper news, sometimes on TV also. And the idea is to encourage them and add that prestige or that social celebration angle to it, so that people get motivated to work in this direction. Then you can look at the specific expertise that you can provide, and then try to work on it. Next is you can invest in a specialized team or a dedicated cell. I would repeat it again, this is not a one person's job. Next would be to promote your industry interaction. You need to find out ways of bringing industry to your campus. In India, we have this specific, we sometimes run into this specific problem that the industries, academic institutions are not located closer to the industry. The institutions are generally somewhere further away from the industry. So then you need to find out ways to invite industry to your campus. I've listed some of them here. There are more. You can have internal discussions about it. Then try to establish continuity in research. Extremely important. See, because when an industrial partner will come, they are looking for the entire solution to their problem. They are not looking at P1, P2, P3, P4. They are looking at the entire solution. So you also need to think in terms of solutions. And finally is think long term. So it's not about the hen. So you need to think of it like I've mentioned here. Always remember the story of the hen that was laying golden eggs. Give it some time. It will keep on giving you the golden eggs. Don't kill the hen to get that one egg or to get all of them at the same time. I think I'll stop here and I'll be open to taking questions now. Thank you everybody for patiently listening to what I had to say.
So I would request the participants to please ask questions. Maybe we can start with.
Have posted the question in the chat box.
Okay.
Maybe I'll ask one question. Can I ask directly?
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Kaushik, for your lovely talk. During the presentation, you mentioned that from TRL 4 till TRL 7, you help startups in a very specific way. Could you please elaborate on it and how we can contact you, come in contact with you also? Thank you.
Okay, so to come in contact with me, the best way is I'm there on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn also. You can also look at for my project FLCTD. So currently we are focusing on low carbon technologies only. So if you're working on something which is relevant to to the clean technologies or to the low carbon space, feel free to reach out to us on the project website also. But if you
Okay.
simply want to have a discussion or want to take out some time from me, best is to reach out to me on LinkedIn or email me, and then we can get in touch.
Great, great. Thank you. And in what ways do you help during this transition?
So in my project, what we do is we have two programs. One is the acceleration program, and one is the innovation challenge. So acceleration program is specifically a capacity building program and a mentoring program where we work with researchers who have started their journey of commercializing, and the training and capacity building is around the venture building aspects. So basically what we have observed is a lot of people who work in the research community and they try to commercialize, the initial mindset of is that of running a research project, and then you're trying to run a business. So there's this mind shift that is required. So the acceleration program is to help you accelerate that mind shift, that reorientation that is required. We have a lot of mentors. So these mentors help you through all the aspects of venture building. And then we have innovation challenge. So innovation challenge, if you have a technology at TRL 5 and you are planning to go to TRL 7 or 8, then innovation challenge is for you. We give up to $50,000, which translates to about 37 lakh rupees, for doing beta testing, for doing in-field validation, demonstration of your innovation and technologies. Then we also make the industry connects. We help you identify places where you can do your demonstrations. Then we also help you with doing the monitoring and verification of your claims. Because what happens is, if I say I'm the best, it doesn't mean anything. Only a third party can tell me that I'm good at what I do. So similarly, when you have a claim and you take it out in the field conditions, and at the end of the experiment, if you say the experiment was successful, it may not have as much value as somebody else, a third party, an independent party, validating it for you that yes, whatever you were claiming has been successful. So we provide that support as well.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I completely agree with what Mr. Nitesh said. And actually, there is another question from Mr. Srirang Madalwar. And his question is to Mr. Nitesh, that can an innovator license out his innovation if he has filed complete patent application and received the patent application number and abstract is also published, but it is not yet granted? Your call, sir.
I think when you get your provisional number, that is when you are safe to talk about it, but not before that. Until and unless you receive your application number, your provisional number, I think that is when you should not talk about it to anyone uh, other than your IP officer. But once you have that number, I think then it is safe to talk about it. But then here I would like to highlight a couple of points. So what we have seen is even after people get patents, they don't disclose everything. So that becomes a problem for your internal tech transfer team or tech commercialization office, because if you don't disclose the merits of your research or even the demerits of your research, then they cannot do a proper evaluation. They cannot assign a proper monetary value to what you're doing. So then you run into problems like people saying, if I can say this in Hindi, like काम तो हमने बहुत किया था, पूरा प्रोसेस भी किया, बट पैसे नहीं मिले, या वो फायदा नहीं हुआ जो सोचा था. That was probably because the benefits were kind of lost in communication. That is one. Second is, when I say that you don't talk to people, at the same time we also run into issues like you may need to find entrepreneurs, you may need to raise investment. So looking at the communication side of things is also very important. Like there is an art of saying saying a lot and still not saying much. You may want to practice that. I know I'm pushing this a little bit towards the, let's say, skills like communication, articulation, etc., which are not generally considered research skills, but it will help you a lot if you can invest a little bit of time in these skills as well.
Sir, on behalf of all the participants, I would like to have one question. Like most of the population today, which you are addressing today, all the participants, they are mostly from the research background, and they each one of have some innovation with them. And now they are in the stage where they are applying for some grants. So while writing those grants, they have to disclose some of their key innovative parts. So in that case, what do you suggest, sir?
I think
So
I
that
have
disclosure, does
already
it affect the technology transfer?
I think I have already mentioned a part of it. See, grants and all, you have to be very careful the amount of disclosure that you're giving in grants, because lot of places there are disclaimers. Like for example, when you apply to my program as well in my project, either to the accelerator or the innovation challenge, we don't take any responsibility of any claims later on where you come and say, I presented this here and it got leaked, or somebody has stolen my idea. We don't take any responsibility of that. Lot of funding agencies have a similar stand. There are also a lot of funding agencies who make it explicitly clear that whatever you are sharing will remain confidential. And then their expert panels are also required to sign confidentiality and non-disclosures, etc. So here it will be good to do some background check first. What kind of funding agency are you approaching? And what are the safeguards in place? Number one. Number two, like I said, it is very important to be cautious and careful about how much are you sharing and how are you sharing. I will reiterate, it is an art to say a lot and still not say much. It will be best to learn it, or it will be best to practice it a little bit. It happens all the time. Honestly, it happens all the time. Um, those safeguards are in place for this reason only. We try to protect the interest of the researcher, but then you have to be sensitive about what you're doing. And see, when you are especially as you are climbing up the TRL ladder, there are certain things which are considered as assumed. For example, if you would come to my innovation challenge, the first question that we ask you is, what is your innovation? That is the very first question. And how much ever detail you can explain about your innovation, better are your chances of qualifying the program. So during presentations, we are very comfortable with the researcher coming us and telling us that this is patent pending. This is how we are doing this. It has, let's say, step from step 1 to step 6. Step 1 and 2 are this. Step 3 and 4 are proprietary. So I would not like to disclose it right now until the decision on my patent application is ready. And then step 6 is this. So we are comfortable with this. We don't force anybody to talk about the proprietary information. So like I said, you need to prepare and manage this. It's generally not so black and white. You have a slide which is blank, or you have a slide which has everything on it. And that is why I have repeatedly mentioned in my presentation that you work with professionals in this. They will help you decide. Whenever you are in doubt, even before a presentation or before this kind of a speaking engagement as well, just see your IP officer, take their advice. They are trained to do this, they are good at this. It will help you a lot. Yeah. That is why I keep on stressing the word, let's say team, peers. You need to work with more people. That is their role. I hope I have answered.
Yeah, Mr. Nitesh, can I add something here? Okay, hi,
Please,
Dr. Amaresh
please,
here from TT.
please.
Yeah, it's very pertinent question from the academia all the time. I just would like to just share a info from the, what the Patent Act give us. There is a 1 year grace period with your hand as an inventor. Okay. If you are presenting something in a seminar, yeah, to a government agency for funding, okay, let's say today you are presenting the same to other parties, okay. There is a 1 year gap period with your hand, okay. If you are filing a patent application within the 1 year gap, okay, then the disclosure cannot be act as a prior art to attack your validity of your patent. So this is providing by the Patent Act. So in that way, what writer Nitesh Kaushik said, you have to practically manage your timeline. Okay. Once you present the same anywhere, you are saying something that part about your creation to any third party, just try to make filing that patent application within 1 year. Then there will be no harm because you are the same person. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I think there are no more questions. But Anupam, would you like to have some questions? Anupam, are you there? Maybe he's not there. Anyway, so if there is no such questions for our first speaker, we can continue with our second speaker. We have been keeping him long waiting. And I would like to formally introduce our second speaker to the participants. So we have with us today Dr. Amaresh Panda. He is the lead KIITTBI from the TTO office. And he is a senior intellectual property professional with the first-hand experience in the technology transfer with his master's in pharmaceutics from the Department of Pharmacy, Utkal University. He is a PhD in pharmacy and also an LLB from the University Law College, Bhubaneswar. And before joining the office of KIITTBI, he had 12.5 years of experience.
Can we get the email ID of Mr. Nitesh?
Yes, we will share it to you. So I was saying that he had a rich experience in the intellectual property and portfolio management, having worked across the big pharma and biotechnology organizations like Sun Pharma, Alchem Laboratories, Microlabs Limited, and many others. He is well versed with the intellectual property related aspects, namely the product selection, portfolio management, patent drafting and prosecution, licensing, due diligence, patent analysis, litigation management, product commercialization, trademark management, regulatory affairs, and other arenas for the human OTCs and the biosimilar formulations and the APIs and medical device. So I must say that he is the right person today who will be talking to you about all these innovations. And as you all other innovators who are listening to him will definitely get benefit. So I would request Mr. Amaresh Panda sir now to start his talk.
Yeah, hi. Good morning to you all. Because as per your, a request from IASST, so just today's topic is related to GI, Geographical Indication. And later, if I will get any scope, then I will also presenting about the patent and trademark or the other part of the IPR. I am just right now presenting my screen to all. Okay. Yeah, is that visible to you all?
Yes, sir.
One. One minute, just.
To all the participants, as mentioned earlier, you can still type your questions in the chat box, and our Amaresh sir will be taking it later.
Yeah. May I start now? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you are. Please start.
Yeah.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Before to start all the bits and part of that geographical indication, so before to this, we should discuss about where it's come from. As we all know, okay, these are the part of intellectual property rights, and I hope everybody, in brief idea about that what's intellectual property is, and it's nothing but okay, it's the creation of the mind. Okay, and for us, and why we are today carrying out this type of sensitization program, we should know our rights. This is the first thing we should know. What are the rights is in our hand as per the government rules and regulation. And the need of the hour is that creating awareness, putting in place an enabling policy environment, proper structure, and process that enables researchers to protect their IPR in technological institutions and universities. Intellectual property has only three basic stones. One is creation, next is application, protection. These are the three pillars of intellectual property. You all are doing good job at your creation in your lab, universities, academia. But when it comes to application, as per the data from the in Indian academia, only 30% from the creation part is going to the application level. There is 70% reduction in that part where we are losing most our best thing in that way. And from application stages, that protection means granting, maybe it a patent, maybe trademark, like that. It's giving by the agency, government agency. And we are reaching, if we are filing 10 applications, hardly we can get 2 to 3 patent or something IP granted by the agency. So if you are looking at these, so creation, if you are taking creation 100%, then we can, right now in India, from the academia point of view, we only protect 8 to 10% of our creation. This is very, very low percentage, and we need such type of awareness program in academia, in technical educations and university, and it's the need of the hour. And once you have that protection, then it is most of the chances due to the help of technology transfer office like KIITTBI, KIITTBI and other organizations as well. It can be transferred from a protection to a successful business, which ultimately help to grow our economic of our nation. Okay, and there's the type of IPRs where the geographical indication is from that one of that IP. Okay, then layout, designing officer, IC, then confidential information, patents, trademark, then industrial designing, plant varieties. These are all coming under industrial property. And the second part is copyright, because IPR is divided in two parts. One is industrial property, which consisting of all the 7 part right now what I have mentioned, and second one is copyrights. Then these are the law what I have mentioned in the right hand part that are govern all the controlling all the applications and granting all the intellectual property in our country. And these are the Act, the Patent Act 1970 and the Patents Rule 2005 and all the amendments. Okay. Then the Trademark Act 1999 and Trademark Rules 2002, the Design Act 2000, Design Rules 2002 and all the amendments, and the Geographical Indication of Goods, Registration and Protection Act 1999 and its amendment all. And as per the patent office, we have 4 patent offices in India: Chennai, Delhi, Kolkata, and Mumbai. And Kolkata patent office is the head office, okay, of all the patent office. Then trademark offices are in Ahmedabad, Chennai, Delhi, Kolkata, and Mumbai. And the geographical indication registry is present in Chennai only. And that Rajiv Gandhi National Institute of Intellectual Property Management is a big library where it is mentioned in the map. If any information you need to be in hard copy, you have to apply there. Sorry. Yeah. Then the next part is geographical indication, its overview, importance, and benefits. What is a geographical indication? It's nothing but an indication used to identify agriculture, natural, or manufacturing goods originating in the said area, because it's locality things. If you are producing something any related to agriculture, it's depend to that area. Later on, I will tell there are near about 400 geographical indication approved GI in India, and there are so many GI throughout the world as well. And it's most of the times related to the locality, originated from a definite territory in India if the GI is developed from India. And like as it throughout the world, if it is developed from some Swiss, US, as per the area, the product name is genericized as per the country. It should have a special quality or characteristics unique to the geographical indication. Quality must be there because it may be curcumin, maybe orange. Just you all know there's a Nagpur orange. It has a GI. So it depends on the quality, taste, quality. This part should be there. You have to describe all the part during the application to the agency. And I am just mentioning some best examples. Just Odisha Rasgulla recently received the GI. Darjeeling tea, basmati rice, Kanchipuram silk sari, Nagpur orange, Kolhapuri chappal, Bikaner bhujia, Agar petha, Swiss watch, it's from Switzerland, then Thai silk. These are all very renowned GI. Then geographical indication and the Act 1999, but it's giving all the part, how can you apply that, who is the producer, then can it be assigned or transmitted? These are all mentioned in the Act and rules. The benefits of regulation of because why should we go for a GI? Because it's not mandatory for every product you should have a GI to market it. No. But why should we go for a geographical indication registration? It's confer legal protection to GI in India or international market as well. Prevents, because if you have a GI, your product cannot be marketed by any other organization, any other body, any other individual. It prevents unauthorized use of the registered GI by others. Provides legal protection to Indian geographical indication, which in turn boosts exports as well. Promotes economic prosperity of the producer of goods produced in a geographical territory. And who can apply? It's very common question from all the person regarding who can apply for a GI. Any association of person, producer, organizer, or authority established by or under the law can apply. The applicant must represent the interest of the producer. The application should be in writing in prescribed form, which is mentioned in the Registration Act and Regulation. The application should be addressed to the register of the geographical indications along with prescribed fee. And here I am telling the prescription fee for geographical indication is 5,000 when you applied for the first time. Then who is the producer? Person dealing with three categories of goods are covered under the term producer. That first one is agriculture goods include the production, processing, trading, or dealing. Or natural goods includes exploiting, trading, or dealing. Handicrafts or industrial goods including making, manufacturing, trading, or dealing. These are coming under the term producer. And as I earlier mentioned, who can apply? The producer part is there, and if we have near about just 400 near about GI, and near about the application category, the most of the application coming under producer range. Can a registered geographical indication be assigned or transmitted? It's a very pertinent question. No, a registered GI cannot be transmitted because it's a public property belonging to the producer of the concerned goods. Shall not be subject matter of assignment, transmission, licensing, pledge, mortgage, or such other agreement. However, when an authorized user dies, his rights develops on his successor in title. It can be only to his son, daughter, like as well. Earlier that person has some will power, then the GI can transmit it to the next person. Otherwise, it will be the GI registration will be removed from the register. Can a registered GI indication and authorized user be removed from the register? Yes. The appellate board is a patent appellate board. Okay, you have to apply there to deregister that GI. And that appellate board has the power to remove the GI indication or authorized user from the register. Sometimes, right, recently there is a conflict between, Bengal Rasgulla. The West Bengal government has filed a GI for the Rasgulla, and once after filing that GI, there is a, advertisement of the GI. Once it's granted, there will be an advertisement of the GI in the register. Anybody can make a, complaint. Yeah, make a, you can oppose that why that GI should not be granted to that producer, yeah, to the state, yeah, to that organization. And at the last, okay, the hearing is was continuing in the appellate court, and West Bengal government won the cases, and they have right now a Bengal Rasgulla with a GI tag. And after that, Odisha government has filed another geographical indication for Odisha Rasgulla, and subsequently, the government of Odisha also received the same. How a geographical indication is different from a trademark? Because trademark is a sign which is used in the course of trade and it distinguishes goods or services of the one enterprises from those of other enterprises. Whereas a geographical indication is an indication used to identify goods having a special characteristics originating from the definite geographical territory. Because trademark also like a sign, and most of the GI you will also find some sign symbol for GI. Then how could you differentiate both? For a GI, there should be, as I earlier mentioned, geographical territory should be attached to that GI product. But for a trademark, there is no need, because if Philips TV have a trademark, he can manufacture in any place throughout the world. But for the geographical indication, if we are mentioning that this is a Nagpur orange, that orange should be produced in that locality. You cannot produce it some other places of anywhere, not in the same state as well. Then the next part is how are geographical indication protected abroad? It's a very pertinent question. Can we, if we have Alfonso mango, it's very popular throughout the world. It's produced in the Konkan region of the Maharashtra state. Can you protect that mango as well under the GI abroad? Yes, we can, because that is the main part. If you want to sell your product in a good way throughout the world, you should apply for the GI registration your interested country. And these are the agreements available in your hand. Okay, in which way you can go there and file a GI. By obtaining protection directly in the jurisdiction concerned, if you want, you can go, you can file directly in US. I just wish to mention here, in case of patent, if you wish to file a patent not in India, but directly outside India, you cannot do it directly. You have to take the permission of the Government of India under Section 39 of Indian Patent Act. But for GI, there is no need, such need. You have to take the permission, proper permission of the Government of India. You can go, you can file directly for other country. Second part is through the Lipson Agreement in 1958 for the protection of appellation of origin and their international registration. Under this agreement, and you have to check that your interest country is part of that agreement or not. If the country is the part of this agreement, then you can file the GI there. And you have to mention that section of that agreement there. By concluding bilateral agreements between states or commercial partners. Because, as a most favored nation, I hope you heard that name. Just India given some most favored nation tag to US. US also just 3-4 years before given that tag to India. You can go there and file directly the geographical indications. But it depends the relationship between two countries. You can also file through Madrid system 1891 for the international registration of mark. As I told, GI also containing most of the time the mark, in which GI concern is protected in the country of origin as a collective or certification mark. Repressive, which this Madrid system will protect you by repressive of false and deceptive indication. You can also use that Madrid agreement as well. Then also TRIPS agreement, another trade-related aspect of intellectual property rights. You can also that TRIPS agreement is coming under Uruguay round, which is a GATT negotiation 1941. The GATT is General agreement on tariff and trade. Under this agreement, you can also go for to file a geographical indication in other countries as well, and also Paris Convention, which is giving the protection of industrial property, and GI is coming under industrial property. Then how a geographical indication is different from traditional knowledge? Okay, because in GI indication also, these are very traditional part. These are both GI indication and traditional knowledge are hand to hand. Both are dependent to each other. But traditional knowledge mostly, it's coming under NEEM, COCOMIM. These are coming under traditional knowledge. And mostly traditional knowledge means it used for a health benefits, like under Ayurvedic, because most of the plant and herbs is coming under Ayurvedic treatment in India. These are all traditional knowledge. TK. There is a TK library in India by the Director General of Patent and Trademark Registry. You can go there if there is a any kind of property of a plant, herb is mentioned, anything mentioned in the traditional knowledge, you can apply for a patent. Okay. So but for geographical indication, how it is different from the traditional knowledge? Traditional knowledge is not restricted to any region of not restricted to any region, but geographical indication is restricted to a region. As like trademark, traditional is like that. It's there is no specificity that product should be from this area. But for geographical indication, the main part is that it should be that area that just like Assam, tea. That tea should have been the plant should have been cultivated, and all the processing, all the units part should have been done in Assam. Then can only the product is satisfy the GI registration. In that way, the traditional knowledge and GI also differs to each other. Then these are the part of formalities. If you are willing to have file application for GI, these are the part of that application. And as I mentioned earlier, you have to pay, there is a prescription fee for 5,000 for a GI application. And if once you file that, the GI will be with you for 10 years. The span of the life, just like patent is for 20 years from the date of filing the patent application. For geographical indication, it's for 10 years. And once it's over, you have to file to continue it. Okay. And for that, you have to pay 3,500. After 10 years, there will be a 6-month period. Within the 6-month period, you have to file for renew it. If you not file the renewal form, then it would be automatically removed from the register. These are the parts: name of the applicant, address, list of association, producer, organization, what is the types of goods, then specification of that goods, name of the geographical indication, if there is any particular, then description of the goods, and geographical area production with map. As I know, region is most, and which part your product is producing, cultivating, you have to share the map as well. And proof of origin, historical record should be there. As I told, Odisha Rasgulla and Bengal Rasgulla controversy. In case of Odisha Rasgulla, government of Odisha saw, providing all the historical evidence of the Jagannath temple Puri, because the tradition is starting from Lord Jagannath temple. That government has to provide all the records to that. Then method of production also you have to, if you are giving some agriculture products, then you have to submitted all the method of production to the agency as well. Then uniqueness, what the uniqueness of your product, you have to mention there. Then instruction body should be, because once you file, if it is in a food product, then food inspector and the commissioner should give you a certification on that, and you have to submit the certificate to that agency. Then why should you go for a GI? Because if you have a GI, registered GI in your hand, but there are so many other organizations, they are selling the product in the market, then what is your planning or strategy for that? Because there is a term called infringement. If somebody selling your GI registered product, then it's coming under the infringement part. When authorized user uses the GI that indicates or suggests that such goods originated in a geographical area other than the true place of origin of such goods in a manner which mislead the public as to the geographical origin of such goods. This is coming under infringement part. Or when the use of GI results in unfair competition, including passing off in respect of registered geographical indication. And third, when the use of another GI results in false representations of the public that goods originated in a territory in respect of which a registered geographical indication relates. And what are the penalties? It may be sentence of imprisonment for a term between, and all the imprisonment cases should be going at a metropolitan under above magistrate court. Okay, yeah, metropolitan court, not below to this. You have to go there and file a suit against that mischief organization or body. Then penalty sentence of if it is justified, then sentence of imprisonment for a term between 6 months to 3 years, or a fine between 50,000 to 2 lakhs. It depends on the situation. I'm just putting some examples for that. Okay, these are the very famous GI from India. There's basmati rice, Mysore silk, Mysore sandalwood as well. Then Cork orange, Madhubani paintings, Darjeeling tea, okay, Alfonso mango, Kalapuri chappal. These are all, and from throughout the world, that Canadian whiskey, Swiss was, Florida orange, champagne, tequila. These are also very popular GI from the globe. And from the left-hand side, I have just picturization that part from which said these are it's related to already registered GI. Okay, and right now there are 470 registered GI in India. And these are the application process. Okay, how you can go for that? You have to file an application, then preliminary scrutiny and examiner of the GI application, communication of deficiency if there are any to the applicant or his agent. Now, replying to the deficiency within 1 month from the date of communication. If required, the applicant may file request for extension for time of 1 more month. Then you have in total 2 months you have to reply. Pursuant to the complaints of deficiency, the examiner will submit the GI application to register of GI for examination. Then issuance of the examination report, reply to examination report within 2 months from the date of communication of examination report. Because the timeline is very important. Okay, otherwise you have to pay more fee for that and so many explanations for that. Acceptance of the application by register of GI, publication of the application in the GI journals within 3 months of the acceptance. It's doing by the agency. Filing opposition, if you have some, filing opposition of registration within 3 months from the date of publication. If you want to, deregister that GI from the, from that register of the agency, you have to file the complaint within 3 months of the advertisement. Then counter statement to opposition to be filed within 2 months by the agency by the organization who have received that GI register. The registration of the GI pursuant to the acceptance of the application. These are the paraphernalia protocols. How after once you file the application till the grant of the GI and also including the opposition. Thank you. And if any question, please.
Wonderfully explained, sir. It was really very nice, and it was a brief and very informative information regarding GI. But so what I understand is it generally takes 1 year. Or
for the granting, yes, hardly 1.5. It's depend. Okay, in which way, because once it's not a one process, the examiner raises some issue about your application filing and you reply them. It's not. It may be take 3 to 4 times to to and fro communication between the examiner and the applicant. It depends how you justified your things and what are the proofs you are submitting to them. Yeah, but on and hard 1.5 years. Mostly 1 year. If everything is in good way.
We have one question in the chat box. It's from Anupam Bhattacharya. So
Yeah.
I think he said that what is the process of filing a GI? It has been already explained by you very well. And what are the body needs to be performed for filing GI for a specific community? Anupam, if you are there, can you ask directly?
Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Hi, my name is Anupam. I'm working here in IASST under Dr. Imran Khan's supervision. So we are making a GI for the specific community. Like we have one Rabha community and KIITTBI community.
Yes.
They produce the fermented fish. One is
Okay.
Shidol and one is Hindol. That
Yes.
fermented fish is very specific for that community.
Mm-hmm.
We want to file a GI for that Rabha community as well as the KIITTBI community in Assam.
Right.
Okay, so what are the bodies and what is the need to be formed? Is there anyone from the Rabha community or what are the other bodies that you have mentioned the inspection body during
Yeah.
the
Yes.
filing? So what are the body and what are the members needs to be formed for filing of the GI?
Okay. It's a fermented fish. Am I right?
Yes, fermented
Yes.
fish.
Yes. Yes. And who has already filed? Yeah, you are planning to file.
No. We have just make the draft. We are going to file and we don't know how to file and where to contact that
Okay,
person.
it's okay. If there is any, if you have a, registered decision community, am I right? Okay. And if there is some registered club, yeah, something like that with registration, okay, from the government of Assam, okay, this agency can also file, okay, because there are so many registration clubs are there, yeah, community are there with approving registration number by the government of Assam, yeah, government of the state government. That person can do, yeah, any person can file from their community by showing the caste certificate. Okay, yeah. And or if there is some manufacturing unit, like some companies there in that area, okay, because maybe producer may be there, okay, for that particular fermented fish. And I hope they have some company, GSTN number, company registration number, they can also find. So in three way, you
But
can go ahead.
specifically, sir, can ISST pursue it?
No, IST, how can is there in that area, particular area? Because I hope not only full Assam is preparing the fermented fish, some area should be there.
Yeah, it's from Rani block in Assam. So in Rani
So
block in Assam,
ISST is presenting in Rani block?
No,
I
ISST in a different area.
Yeah, because if one more thing, it's possible when the all community give you the authorization, okay, because they have no idea,
Okay.
nothing on that, then you are not part of that. But the GI on the name of this particular block and area, not on to
Yeah,
or
the
not
GI should be for the particular community and particular
yes, not to
block.
ISST. Yeah.
No, definitely not to ISST. But
Yes.
that's the thing. If they have authorized
You
us
can
to
help them. You
initiate
can
the
help them.
process.
No issue. You can help
Yes,
them.
yes.
There should be authorization copy from their community to you.
Yes.
Authorization
Actually,
copy from their
they are
community.
trying
No,
to
okay.
help
Yes.
that community only.
In regard to the same question, just to understand the concept of GI, for example, the Rabha community is present all over Assam. So
Okay.
will the GI belong to Assam or only that particular area where that?
No, not for that. This is then the community should get the GI.
Then it's not
Because
nothing to do with geography then.
throughout each and every district of Assam, am I right?
Sorry, sir?
Each and every part of the Assam that community is present right now?
Not
Yes.
in each and every part of the Assam.
Or let's say
Majority,
at least
yeah.
50%.
And yeah, then you can get that on Assam state. No issue. You can get.
Hello, excuse me, I have a question.
And one more question. I am just asking one more part. The producing of this fermented fish, is there any specificity locality or it's fermented here producing throughout the Assam?
It's community specific. Their method of production is very specific for the KIITTBI community and the Rabha community.
Okay.
That is their uniqueness.
Okay, then you can ask them. Just like I'm telling, Rasgulla is not preparing. Sorry. It's made in throughout the Odisha. Then its name is related to Odisha. Yeah, Bengal Rasgulla, Odisha Rasgulla. Okay, you can. Though the
Excuse
Rasgulla is preparing by some community only, not by
Yes,
all.
Dr. Jaraj. Yes, you can come up with your question, Dr. Jaraj.
Yeah, okay. So right now you have said that the community, we need to have an authorization letter from the community.
Because you are representing to them, yeah.
Yeah. So what would be the body from which we have to take the authorization letter? It's can you?
No. They have a. That's why I'm saying earlier. I am asking. They have a registration number for their community. Any club, any association, any trust, they have any registered trust, then can only they you give the authorization. Okay.
Like say, if we speak about any community, it is dispersed throughout the Northeast India. So so if you are going to file GI for like say Shidal, then it is from the KIITTBI community. But the
No,
KIITTBI
agreed.
community, yeah,
Agreed,
KIITTBI
but
community
is
is
there
also
any
available
mukhya?
in.
Is there any mukhya or a head who will be ready to?
No, my question is not that. My
On
question is the KIITTBI community is also there in Assam, also there in Tripura, and
Yeah,
also there
in Odisha as well. In Odisha as well.
Yeah. So like say if we collect a authorization letter from the community that is in Assam, is it okay or we have to collect from everywhere?
No. So that's why I'm asking, because there will be then an opposition fight. Okay, just I'm asking one more question. The fermentation fee, what is the quality of that fermented fees? Can you just let me know? Because in Odisha also, there are so many type of fermented feed is available in Odisha market. So what's the specificity of that product? Because
Yeah,
as I am
the
asking the quality and specific, advantages you have to mention in that application.
Yes, that we have mentioned in the application. They say that their community, the type of the fermented fish they produce, the flavor is different from any other variety. So that is the claim actually, traditional claim. Okay.
Okay. So then, okay, if it is satisfy the examiner, you can file on the behalf of Assam. Then, if any other state has some complaints on that, they can also ask for the same. Just before, that's why I mentioned giving that controversy about Bengal Rasgulla and Odisha Rasgulla. Okay, you can have two GI on Rasgulla, but they categorically mention not Rasgulla, Bengal Rasgulla, and Odisha Rasgulla.
And the next question is in compliance with Tania that we have to collect the authorization letter from the mukhia or kind of president or this type of.
Yeah, if there is any registered trust, any registered association, you have to take. Otherwise, there are 100% coming in going to the office, and we are the representative of that community, and we wish to file an GI. So it's not satisfied their requirement.
Okay, and those communities should also be involved in the inspection body.
Of course, because if it is related to food grade, okay, and what you are telling, these are some specific flavor, blah blah blah, jo bhi, okay, you have to take that type of approval or something like agency. There food agency of Assam government. I hope there is a food agency of Assam there. Okay, they have to give that such type of certification on that. Nutrient value, like anything what you are going to specify in your application to that agency of GI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
For example, the Uriya Rasgulla. Okay.
Yes.
There are some Uriya people in Assam also. Can they produce the Rasgulla in Assam because they are Uriya people?
Yeah. Because this is of course. But if you are the production, if you are making as an organization and selling it, then you have to produce it within the Odisha jurisdiction.
Only within the Odisha region.
Yes.
Okay, not even if a person is from Uriya, he cannot do it in Assam.
No.
Okay.
No.
And suppose me, I'm Assamese, and I want to produce this Uriya Rasgulla. Can I produce it in Odisha or not?
Yeah, of course, you can settle a plant in Odisha and you follow all the procedure. You can, because I am telling that in that application, the procedure should be description, method of producing that product. Okay. And as per the government norm, you have to follow that in your lab, sorry, in your industry. You have to.
Okay.
Because,
suppose there is some modification.
Process should be there. Process should be, you have to follow that process. If
suppose there is some modification in the process.
No, then it's, you are coming under infringement. You can't do that.
Dipankar, let me come to the point. Like, suppose you can ask the same question for your wine because you are producing a wine, and how relevant is the production of that wine when you want to commercialize your production, innovation, and if it is from a community, how will you do it? Maybe this question you can ask, sir.
That is what I was asking, because when I'm trying to commercialize any traditional food or beverage, there is certain modification in the process itself. So in that case,
1 minute. Actually, what I'm saying, in that application form, you have to mention the process of preparation. Yeah, method of cultivation.
Mhm.
Method of cultivation means the RH, soil qualities, cultivation timing, everything you have to mention.
Mhm.
And what are the fertilizer you are using? Because other than anybody can manipulating this process. If you are putting a industry for that, you have to follow the method of preparation of that food. Because you have the
Suppose,
industry. Yeah.
okay.
Dr.
Suppose,
Panda,
sir,
let me break this question.
no,
Sir.
no, let me finish, get this. Suppose I'm making the rasgulla in Assam, okay, the Uriya rasgulla, but I have modified the process. In that
You
case,
know,
I cannot market it as Uriya rasgulla, but I can market it as
no. You can only sell as rasgulla, no issue.
yes, but I cannot market it as Uriya rasgulla. Is it?
No,
true?
you can't.
Yes. Okay.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So who is an authorized user that you were saying? Say suppose if the applicant is a tea board for say suppose Assam tea, and there are list of authorized users there, and who is this authorized user, and how do you become an authorized user?
Okay, for the tea, if you are you are using Assam tea, okay, and you are the part of domicile of that state, okay, and authorized user. If I am, just like I'm telling, if there is some community they have no idea, okay, about that product, okay, let's see, and you are using that, and you wish to represent them as a user, you can file the GI. Because if I am an ODR, I can also file the GI on behalf of that
No,
Rasgulla.
I'm
I
not
can do that.
filing the GI. GI has already been filed, sir. I want to become an authorized user so that I can sell it. So who do I take permission from? From the applicant, or do I go to the registry to take that permission?
Yeah, of course.
And say suppose if I have to list it,
From the registry, you have to take.
and how do I become an authorized user?
Yeah,
Do I
yeah,
get a
yeah.
certificate?
No. Let's see. I'm just giving you an example, Odisha Rasgulla, and I want to make a plant here and say, sell it the Odisha Rasgulla. Then I have to submit it everything to the registry office, GI registration agency in Chennai. They will give you that because you are the registered user. Anybody can buy Assam tea. I can also buy Assam tea. But if I wish to put the plant, I have to put that plant in Assam. I have to cultivate the tea in Assam only, and I have to put everything to Geographical Indication Agency in Chennai.
And say suppose I just want to list the GI products. Hello.
Yeah.
Say suppose I just want to procure some of, say suppose Madhubani painting. I want to procure Madhubani paintings. So there are many Madhubani painters, but they are not the authorized users. So I will not be able to put it as an Madhubani painting because it does not have any certification as such. So how do you go about with that? So I have to contact the registry to give me the authorization, who are the authorized people in that particular domain, or what to do. Like I just want to sell it, take the authentic product and sell it to the market. I'm just a distributor.
That Madhubani part. If that product is manufacturing in that area, okay, because it's there is no stringent law for that, okay, it's not like that black and white. You can easily get who is the who is infringing this or who is using in a malified intention. You can't get it, okay, you can only complain to them. But if you buy a product just like Banaras study, I'm going to Banaras and some people are selling it is a Banaras study, okay, and you have no idea this is Banaras study or not, because in study there is no registration number, nothing like that, okay, they are selling it and you are buying it from Banaras. Then as per your subscription, you are buying a Banaras study from Banaras, okay, and also I am also buying a Banaras study from Bhubaneswar, Odisha. They are selling so many shops there in the name of Banaras study. If somebody is finding, if you are a user and if you find that it is not the real Banaras study, then you can make that sue against that shopkeeper, yeah, that supplier in the court. You can do that as a user. You can make a complaint to that retrospective agency on that. This is the fake one. Agency is
Are
not.
there any list of authorized users by the registry? Are there any list provided by the registry?
Yeah, manufacturer list is there. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank
Manufacturer
you.
list, but in shop you cannot get that information. Manufacturing lists are there because if I am producing a Banaras sari, then my industry should have that type of application in registry of GI.
Sir, I have one more question.
Yeah.
What is the smallest geographical area that can get a GI tag? For example,
There is no specific area defined by that, if you have a very strong historical records with you, okay, very strong.
Mhm.
Because in near to my home, okay, my district, there is a Kirochara Gopinath temple. I don't know you have heard about that. There is very famous Khirabho. There is a prasad of the Thakur. This is of that god. This is called Khirabho. It's only available only one temple only, and we are planning to file a GI on that. It's only temple. That's all. You can do that because that temple has a near about 1,000 year of history.
Okay, sir.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I have heard about that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That history is related to him with Lord Krishna. And if we are satisfy the examiner, it may be it's only restricted to one temple only. You can have that GI for that.
Okay,